There are people who today don't think I'm a great dude, and it's off of one clip that somebody wanted to use me to do a split screen to build themselves up because they're in the business of tearing people down to build their building. And that doesn't bother me. Actually, it's one of, like, I actually have incredible compassion for that person.
Has it ever hurt?
Not.
So I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah,
so when I became a dragon on BBC's Dragon's Den, I was exposed to a new level of public criticism and misunderstanding, of often intentional misunderstanding. So anything you say or do, articles and different sort of sides of the political spectrum who maybe hate entrepreneurship at times, doing pieces on me, and then the backlash, and then other like real sort of takedown efforts.
Yes.
And there was days where even my walls of like resilience and toughness, something kept me up at night. Has that ever happened for you where?
Yeah, we're all human beings. I'm not a robot.
Yeah.
It's that it's so not sustained.
Tell me about a time when that happened. You don't have to give me the details.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
There was a kid who wrote a Medium piece about me being the face of hustle porn, which to this day lingers. And it was a Medium article. I was on a plane, I landed, and it was just all this chaos. And there was a lot of things that weren't true. Like me, I didn't inherit my dad's liquor store. I built my dad's store for him. There were some things that really like trigger me. That one always hurts because I think I did one of the most noble acts a human with talent can do. I knew at 17 that I was a fucking guy. And I decided consciously that I loved my parents so much that I was gonna dedicate a decade of my youth, prime fucking years. 20 to 30 is fucking, you got time, you got energy, I gave 10 of my greatest years. They're not my wisdom years, but they're my fucking years. And I gave them to my parents. Never made over 120,000 a year, built a business from 3 to 65 million, left with nothing. Started VaynerMedia in Mike Lazaro's conference room at Buddy Media at 34 years old because I had no fucking money. I'm proud of that. So when you can imagine when somebody writes a hit piece and says, you can't listen to this guy, he inherited his dad's liquor store, that hurts.
When you say hurts, what are the symptoms of that hurt for you?
Oh, you're gonna love this, because this is why it's not sustainable. I'm neutral at all times. Gary, you're the GOAT, thank you. Gary, you're shit, I understand. Why does it hurt? I know that there is millions of 15 to 25-year-olds, 30 to 60-year-olds, 61 to 90-year-olds right now who've decided not to consume my message because one person who's hurting decided to build themselves up by targeting me because of the platform I'm on, and that disappoints me more than anything. As someone who is deeply, deeply, deeply driven by leaving the impact at the highest levels that he is capable of out of the guilt and gratitude of winning the DNA and environment game, the elimination of opportunity to help make the world more about love in lieu of someone reinforcing their beliefs of living the world of dark and hate is crushing for me philosophically. But the reason it's not sustained, Steve, is my number one fan on earth, outside of my family, whoever that is, Sally Pants McGee, and my number one person that hates me the most, thinks that the whole thing is the worst, can't wait till I die. I equally feel the same about it. 0.
On that day, you land from that plane, you see the, I don't know, Twitter or whatever's blowing up and all these people are saying those things. If I was sat next to you,
yes,
what would I have observed?
Hey, this is too big to not address in a world where 99.9 things I won't address. I want to at least create clarity because it's gone too viral in a world that I admire. The readers of Medium are my contemporaries, my friends, people I admire. And so I just didn't want 6 or 7 things that weren't true to be the foundation of a hypothesis, especially when you go read Crush It, which is my coming out moment. It doesn't talk about making money and buying a yacht. when it talks about working hard at night, it was under the context of the 2008 recession, people losing their jobs, and me saying, hey, I don't know if you know this, but the internet's getting mature. And if you go on YouTube and Twitter, you might be able to fix this shortcoming you have. And yes, I understand that some of you are also equally, it's not just about getting a new job or getting a job. It's also, oh my God, because this was insane to me because I was just coming out to the world now. I was like in my little wine library bubble. I'm like, people don't like their jobs? Like that was like, I loved it so much. Even if I was doing it for I loved it so much that I was taken aback by that. I was like, well, if you don't like being an accountant and you love Star Trek, start making Star Trek videos. I mean, it's insane what TikTok and Instagram and YouTube have created. You go read Crush It, which I wrote in 2008. It's insane how much of that became true, even to me.
You know why I think I'm asking this question and I keep persisting on this topic is because I've always seen the way that you've publicly responded in those moments, and it's always been with an unbelievable level of gratitude and empathy. And so as someone who's been on the receiving end of it,
it's hard.
It's hard. So
it's just, you know, I'm sorry, finish your thought.
I was going to say, so I've always wondered from afar, as someone who's been on the receiving end of it, what goes on as the first, you know, like the first reaction we have to these things where you're like pissed?
Yeah, I mean, the first 100th of a second reaction is actually a very weird blend of you'll see and I can't wait to be gracious when you come to apologize.
And I've had moments like that where the story or whatever will just stay on my mind and it will rattle over. And it might rattle over for like 6, 7 hours, 8 hours. It might rattle over at nighttime that night. It might even rattle over the next morning. Does that happen to you too?
It's very rare for it to be able to get to the second day, that next morning. Very rare. I just go deep into the fucking Gary cave of, okay, this person I admire just took a shit on me. This influencer decided to shit on me. And I'm not talking about the comedians who I love. The comedian stuff is like awesome because I'm like, I just did Dylan's podcast and I said it. I'm like, that I'm like humbled by. Like actual good comedians. Forget about the people that impersonate me and have built not their careers because they impersonate others, but like a couple of these characters have really benefited from impersonating me. And that means so much to me that VCon was my crowning event. And the first people that hit stage were impersonators of me. There's no bigger cosign I can give to like, that feels amazing that somebody's winning. The thought that somebody's winning in their comedic career because they popped by impersonating me, that's like the most humbling feeling of all time. Not when people take shots at me and like hyperbolize what I'm saying for a laugh. I'm flattered by them. I'm talking about people that really are like, fuck this dude. He's bad. And it's so bad how they do it. It's so very out of context and things of that nature. It just doesn't register. If I'm hurt by midnight as I close my eyes, and then the first thing I do when I close those eyes and the first thing I do when I open those eyes, I say to myself, okay, the world, all 8 billion people have decided to go on social media and say, actually, I'm a piece of shit. Is that better or worse than my parents dying in a car crash right now on the way to the airport? I'd much rather have all 8 billion people go on social media right now and say I suck than that to happen. Thus, I can't be upset about this in a real way.
There's bigger problems.
There's bigger problems.
You referenced something earlier. You said wisdom years. I found that really, really compelling because you referenced, I think you said 20 to 30. I'm now 30, just turned 30. So I guess I'm in my wisdom years. And one of the things...
Well, I think this one's the in-between. The 20 to 30 is like, right? Like just fucking go ham. And for everybody listening, this is the years to taste a lot of shit, make a lot of mistakes, have fun, try different things, like everything. Eat it all. Go to the the salad bar and try every single thing that's in there. 30 to 40 is the refinement of 20 to 30. Especially if you really go at it, you're like, okay. I remember like 30 is when shit started popping for me. February 21st, 2006 is my first episode of Wine Library TV. Mm-hmm. So I'm 30. I just turned 30. And that is clear. I mean, the fact that within January, within 3 months of my 30th birthday, the very clear public data, very clear indication of the shift in my career happened 3 months. So that was interesting. And I think those are when I think of 30 to 40, I refined a lot of things that felt natural 20 to 30. I refined my craft. I started to get to know myself better. When I think about 40 to 47, I'm like, that's an evolution of 30 to 40. I'm still refining, I'm still doing, but I'm starting to get into a thought of like, okay, I like have real grasp on things. I can do some real damage. Like I'm scared in the most positive way of what I'm gonna accomplish selfish and selflessly from 50 to 60. Scared. I think it's going to be banana shit. I think everything that is me right now is minor leagues compared to what I'm gonna do 50 to 60, because I now have the context of 40 to 50, which is a more polished version of the refinement of 30, 40. And so for me, 50 to 60 feels like insanity. And then when I look at my 60 to 70-year-old business friends, I'm like, fuck, I get an entire another decade after that decade of doing it at 100. And then I start debating what happens at 70, right? Then I'm like, 70 to 80 is still a very clear decade for a certain very small group to continue to go ham and go fucking insane. I'm curious where I'll be. I know to 70, I'll be exactly the same way I am right now. It's inconceivable I'm not. Those 23 years are pretty clear to me. They're gonna look like the last 23 years. 70 to 80 becomes an interesting debate. Will I take any foot off the pedal? Will I go to a different place? I often fantasize of like going into like a cave in Peru and whoever wants to find me can come and we get 30 minutes and I just do that for the next 30 years of my life. I don't know. Obviously there's that very silly but very emotional goal of buying the jets for me. That's more fun to chase than like I almost think the first time I might feel actual unhappiness or weirdness or some sort of version of like, might be if I buy the jets. Like I think about that a lot. I'm like, if this happens, was this such a romantic journey? This is not 30 and 40 and 20-year-old Gary thinking it's cool to say this. This was 12-year-old Gary telling Robbie Turnick and Eric Godfrey, I'm gonna buy this fucking team. This has been like a thing, like actually, like forever.
Quick one. Intel are now one of the sponsors on this podcast, and in the coming weeks, I'm going to be telling you about the vPro platform. Intel vPro is built for business. Essentially, what this means to me is that it's built for a hybrid working mode, perfect for my businesses, as we quite literally are working all over the world in offices, in co-working spaces, in airports. And the vPro platform has been super helpful in allowing me to connect and collaborate seamlessly with all of my teams all around the world, all of the time. It truly makes hybrid working far easier, so it's something that I think businesses will all be able to benefit from. For me, the benefits are second to none. Its industry-leading performance makes it the perfect solution for any business. So if you'd like to find out more, and I really think you should, head to intel.co.uk/vPro and let me know how you get on. For many years, people have been asking for a coffee flavored Huel, and quite recently Huel released the iced coffee caramel flavor of their ready to drink Huels, and I've just become hooked on it over the last couple of weeks. I've been on a really interesting journey with Huel, which I've described and talked about a little bit on this podcast. I started with the berry ready to drinks, then I moved over to the protein salted caramel because it's 100 calories and it gives you all of your essential vitamins and minerals, but also gives you the 20 odd grams of protein you need. And now I'm balanced between them both. I drink mostly the banana flavor ready to drink. I've got really into the iced coffee caramel